So hello everyone, in this video we'll be understanding about arrays in JavaScript. So let's start that. So what is an array? We actually have seen this question before. Arrays are complex variables that allow us to store more than one value or a group of values under a single variable name. JavaScript arrays can store any valid value, including strings, numbers, objects, functions, and even other arrays. Thus making it possible to create more complex data structures such as an array of objects or an array of array. You can see, let's suppose you want to store the name of colors in your JavaScript code. Storing the color names one by one in a variable could look something like this. So you can see we have to create multiple variables for each color. We have to create color 1, let's say, and we have to store a string of the color value, let's say red, and then we have to create second variable for second color, which is color 2, and the value is green, color 3 blue. So all these three variables are containing different values or three different color values. But what happens if you need to store the state or city names of a country in variables? And this time there's not just three, maybe 100. So you have to create 100 variables, right? It is quite hard and boring to store each of them in a separate variable. Also, using so many variables simultaneously and keeping track of them all will be very difficult task. And here our array comes into play. Arrays solve this problem by providing an ordered structures for storing multiple values or a group of values. So how can we create an array? The simplest way to create an array in JavaScript is enclosing a comma separated list of values in a square bracket. We have already seen that in the previous videos. As shown in the following syntax, you can see the syntax below, which is this where my array. This can be any variable name, and after that we have assigned it a square bracket. Inside that we have element 0. It can be any element, it can be any string, it can be number, boolean, anything. We have the second value separated by comma, then we have n number of values. Array can also be created using the array method. Constructor also, we can say that array is a constructor as shown in the following syntax. However, for the sake of simplicity, previous syntax is recommended. So because the earlier one is the simplest one, so that's why we generally use the previous one. Where my array, now you can see if we create it with this array constructor, so how will it look like? We have to use this new keyword because it is a constructor, that's why we have to use it. Now we can use this array constructor inside the bracket or inside the parentheses. We have to specify our elements. These are same elements we were specifying in the square bracket directly. So we have to specify that here. So this is another way of creating an array. Now you can see we have this colors organized in a square bracket, or you can say colors is now an array. So this square bracket is actually containing three different values. The first one is this red, the second one is this green, and then this is blue. It can have different data type as well. So it can be all string or multiple data types. You can see in fruits we have stored multiple fruits. Cities, we have different cities. We have also person who have different like data types. You can see this is the number data type, and this one is string, and this one also. So we can also store arrays like this, and this is the basic example of creating an array. So this is an example. So how can we access elements inside the array? So array elements can be accessed by their index. So I told you about the index, so which start from 0 in JavaScript. By the index using the square bracket notation, an index is a number that represents an element's position in an array. Array indexes are zero based, that I told you. This means that the first item of an array is stored at index 0, not 1. The second item is stored at index 1, and so on. So 0 index will be our first element, 1 index will be our second element, Similarly, we have second index, that's for third element, and then so on. Array indexes start at 0 and go up to the number of elements minus 1. So our index starts from 0 and it goes till the total elements, number of total elements minus 1. So if let's say we have total 5 elements, so the last elements index will be 4, because total length minus 1. So that's the last index, or last elements index. So array of 5 elements would have indexes from 0 to 4, that you can guess. So how can we get the length of an array? If we have, let's say, this array, which is fruits, which contains some fruit values in string. So how can we get the length of this array, or how many items are there in this array? How can we get that? It is very easy. We can use this dot length property on this array variable, which is this fruits. Now you can see we are using it on this fruits dot length. So this will give us the length of all the elements inside this array. So basically it is just like the string that we used to have our string, and we used to uh, use this property on string as well, that gives us the number of characters. Similarly, we have this length property on arrays as well, that gives total elements in an array. How can we add elements in an array or into an array? To add a new element, we have this method, which is push. You can see that we have colors dot push, and then we can specify any item that we want to push inside this array. Let's say we have this red, green, blue. It is already initialized. Now I want an extra color, which is yellow. So that I can do very easily. I can push it at the end or after the blue, this new value, which is yellow. So colors dot push. You have to do like this. You have to use this method, which is push. What this push method does, it adds a new element at the end of an array. So after the last element. Now if I print this colors array, you can see we have 4 values now: red, green, blue, and this the fourth one, yellow. And if we count the length, then that will be 4, not 3, because this new element is added now. Similarly, we can do this same thing with this unshift method, but there's one difference, one tiny difference, that push allows us to add elements at the end, but this unshift method allows us to add elements at the starting. So you can add elements at the start. So this yellow will be added at the start, not at the end. Now you can see. So both are adding the elements, but push is adding at the end, and unshift method is adding at the start. So basically you can see we have multiple elements. We can also add multiple elements at the same time. You can see this push method is adding pink and violet at the end. You can see pink and violet. And this unshift method is adding yellow and gray at the start. You can see yellow and gray at the start. Now total length is 7, 3 and 4 elements, total 7 elements. So this way you can add multiple elements at the same time by adding a comma in between. How to remove elements from an array? So it is very easy to remove elements. We use pop method. So this pop method allows us to remove the last item or the last array item. So this method returns the value that was popped out. So when we use this colors.pop, so it returns the value that is removed by this method. So it will remove this blue, and then we are storing that blue inside this last. So you don't have to, I'm not recommending you to store that. If it is needed that which element was removed, you want to log that out. So in that case you can actually use this method or store it in a separate variable. Now you can see it is stored in this last, and if we log this out, last variable, then you'll get the blue, because that is the part which is removed, or that is a value that is removed from this array. So the pop method will remove the last element from the array. Now if we count the length of this colors array, then we'll get the two items because the third one is removed now. Similarly, we can remove the element from the start as well. Just like we had the unshift for adding the elements, we have shift for removing first element. Now you can see we are using shift method, and then this red will be removed. So this red is now removed, and then we have stored that inside the first variable, this first variable, and we are console logging that or document dot writing that. And if we count the length now, then it will be 2. So both the methods pop and shift is used for removing the elements, but pop will remove the elements from the end, shift will remove the elements from the start. So that is basically the difference. So these were some methods I told you about. In the next video, we'll be working on the part 2 of this array series, and we'll be learning how we can remove and add elements or in at a specific position. So how can we do that? Also, we'll learn some more methods in arrays. So let's understand in the next video. Thank you for watching.